Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet SkyFF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name is Hitch.
My name's James, and it probably still revolves around that for you because you haven't lost any ground this week, have you? 'Cause there's been no
No,
game.
I don't think anybody has this week, mate. Particularly, and actually, if anything, I might have made ground, James, because I don't own Joao Cancelo or any other
You don't
particular
know Matt
players that
Doherty, no?
have. No, no, no. None of the players that I own have left the game, and obviously Joao Cancelo had reasonable ownership. I wouldn't call it regular levels of what you'd expect Cancelo to have in terms of ownership, but he did have reasonable ownership. So I probably made ground, James.
Well, that's good, mate. I'm really pleased for you.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I had already sold Cancelo. I think I saw he was still in about 4% of top 1,000 teams or so. So people are going to have to deal with that. But you know what? Sometimes it can these things can work in your favor in the sense you go, oh, he haven't really got an off point. Maybe I'm gonna have to go to a Man United player next Wednesday. The fact that you know he's definitely out the league and not playing on Sunday opens up all 20 teams in the league for you, doesn't it? So
Correct. It does. It
in
does.
a weird way, it can work to your favor.
So, in today's episode, we need to catch up in what we've learned about the March television fixtures now that they have been announced. Not all of the fixtures are locked in, but the TV ones are as locked as they can be. Newcastle winning yesterday clearly means that they're going to be through to the Carabao Cup final, and Manchester United have a very healthy lead. So
I think we
you
can assume
suspect that they're
that,
going to
yeah.
go through as well. You are the fixtures maestro
Oh, that's
for
debatable.
well, no, between the two of us, you are definitely the fixtures
Okay, I'll
maestro.
take that, yeah.
So what did we learn, or is there anything interesting standouts that people need to be aware of in terms of transfer planning now?
Yeah, we'll start with the obvious ones, which is the impact of the cup results, and then we'll cover the March stuff. Obviously, first and foremost, Manchester United and Leeds obviously definitely goes ahead next
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday. There is zero doubt about that now. As you mentioned, obviously Newcastle beat Southampton last night, and with Manchester United holding a 3-0 lead against Nottingham Forest in the other League Cup semi-final, I think we can assume that from the weekend of Saturday, the 25th of February, that Brighton and Newcastle will be postponed. And I think we can assume that from the following day, Sunday, the 26th, Manchester United and Brentford will be postponed. Now, what that means for that weekend now is we have two single game days. We have Fulham and Wolves on the Friday night, and we'll now have Tottenham and Chelsea on the Sunday. The Newcastle Brighton fixture was also scheduled to be the 12:30 kickoff. So that means obviously we'll have all the 3 o'clock lineups on that particular Saturday. I don't know how useful that'll be for people, but because Manchester City are later kickoff on that Saturday. Bournemouth and Man City is a 5:30. Crystal Palace and Liverpool is 7:45. So although there's no early kickoff that Saturday, there's two evening games. You will get to see the Arsenal team at Leicester, for example, now, but I think most often we know what that's going to be in any case. On the final weekend of March, we've got a few games that we know are definitely going to happen. The one that's been added to that is Arsenal Crystal Palace, which we knew was going to be a Sunday in any case, because Arsenal were definitely going to have involvement in the Europa League on the Thursday, and it's internationals afterwards. So you're never going to have a Monday night game when you've got internationals afterwards. It does mean we have a confirmed fixture at least for all 3 days over that weekend. So we've got Nottingham Forest, Newcastle's been announced for the Friday night. We've got Chelsea and Everton is a 5:30 kickoff on the Saturday. Villa Bournemouth is a 3 o'clock on that day. And Arsenal will play Crystal Palace on the Sunday. There will be at least one more fixture on that Saturday. It could be that there's two more, subject to what Fulham and Leeds and Sunderland do in the FA Cup. But we're going to have at least one more of Liverpool, Fulham, and Wolves versus Leeds on that Saturday as well. So Liverpool could potentially have a bearing on captaincy. The March TV selections, we can cover them off. So we've got Man City, Newcastle is the 12:30 on Saturday the 4th. Southampton, Leicester is the evening game. I do think there is a fixture that could come out of that Saturday which I'll come back to in a second. Sunday the 5th, we now know we've got Nottingham Forest against Everton and Liverpool against Manchester United. We have Monday the 6th, a single game day again for Fulham, who travel to Brentford on that Monday night. The following weekend is just Saturday and Sunday. The TV selections of Bournemouth-Liverpool is the early game, which is quite relevant. Crystal Palace and Manchester City, the evening game. On the Sunday, we've got 3 games, which are Fulham against Arsenal, Newcastle against Wolves is the 4:30 TV selection, and obviously yourselves, West Ham, play Aston Villa. The final weekend, obviously, is FA Cup quarter-final. But as I said, we've definitely got that Forest-Newcastle Friday game. We'll definitely have Arsenal-Palace on the Sunday. We'll definitely have Chelsea and Aston Villa on the Saturday. Now, that's all the March. That's us done in terms of TV fixture. We sat at this time last week, and so we've only got 4 weeks of information. We've now got 7, technically. But there are a few things that could change, and I'd like to highlight that. Currently, in the FA Cup 5th round, there are only 2 teams that can play on the Thursday night without a fixture moving. And this was prior to the draw. And those were
in the 5th round.
In the 5th round. Those teams were Manchester United and Fulham. Now, Fulham, we don't know, obviously, are even going to necessarily make it into the 5th round, because they've obviously got a replay against Sunderland. But Manchester United could play on the Thursday because they don't play Liverpool till the Sunday. In Fulham's case now, they obviously don't play Brentford till the Monday. But obviously, Leeds have a fixture scheduled against Chelsea on Saturday the 4th. That's very unlikely to move. So if the TV companies, BBC and ITV, want to show a Thursday night game in the FA Cup 5th round, it's most likely to be Manchester United. Now, of course, Manchester United scheduled to play West Ham. West Ham are due to go to Brighton on a Saturday. And it might be that there's no Thursday night game in the FA Cup 5th round, but I think they would like to manipulate something. And I don't think they're going to be that fussed about manipulating something for Fulham versus Leeds. They might, however, try and manipulate it for Manchester United against West Ham on the Thursday night, which would mean Brighton and West Ham game potentially moving to Sunday the 5th. The other game that I think they could do that with is Tottenham's trip to Wrexham or Sheffield United. That would mean Tottenham's fixture with Wolves moving to Sunday the 5th. I think that's a lot less likely because Tottenham play Milan in the Champions League on the Wednesday afterwards. And I think Tottenham are going to, what are you doing if you're going Thursday, Sunday before Champions League on a Wednesday? So, and I think in any case, they'd rather have Manchester United as a standalone for the TV fixtures. So I think there's a possibility that Brighton West Ham could move to Sunday the 5th. We should have, I think, the confirmed TV dates for those FA Cup 5th round games, I think, before the weekend. If not, they're taking the piss. There's one other fixture that I think could move that's already been arranged, and that's a 50-50. Manchester United scheduled to play Southampton on Saturday, the 11th of March. Should United beat Barcelona in Europa League, that will move to a Sunday. The other thing, of course, we can't see here is potential additional fixtures. I'd mentioned previously that I thought there was a strong chance of Liverpool playing Wolves on Wednesday, the 8th of March. I think that's now less likely because of the TV scheduling. Liverpool's fixture against Manchester United has been moved to the previous Sunday, and they have Bournemouth as the 12:30 kickoff on Saturday 11th. And we know how much Klopp doesn't like the Wednesday night and the Saturday lunchtimes. So why put it in there when now you can put it in the previous week? Because following Liverpool's defeat to Brighton in the FA Cup, in theory, Liverpool's fixture against Wolves or their fixture at Chelsea could be arranged into that midweek. So we're talking roundabouts here, Wednesday, March the 1st, not necessarily the Wednesday, but certainly could drop in as a single game day. I think the Wolves game is more likely than Chelsea, because in the case of the Chelsea game, they'll go in competition with the terrestrial TV night coverage, whereas Liverpool Wolves, they'll probably just stick it in there, no TV coverage, no problem. The other fixture that could go into that midweek is Arsenal against Everton. But Arsenal and Everton are obviously both out the cup. Currently, they've only got one game to rearrange. That feels less important, whereas there's still things for Liverpool later in the season that could be an issue, even though they're scheduled match week 32 fixture with Nottingham Forest, which is the same weekend as the FA Cup semi-final, is now a lock. Remember what I explained on the FPL chip strategy pod about potential issues with King's Coronation and maybe keeping that final midweek free for the Champions League teams just in case. So I think there's a good chance Liverpool Wolves, I'd call it probably a 50-50, could suddenly land around about Wednesday, 1st of March. Now, the entry point, therefore, straight away would be the Everton game, Monday the 13th. Because if that was to happen, suddenly you've got Liverpool sort of 4-4-1s over a couple of teams. And with a couple of single days, it's effective more. So it won't cause you major drama if it goes in because of that Liverpool-Everton Monday night game. But it might be that it's worth picking up more than one if you don't have none, for example. The other thing I think particularly to watch out for is Brighton, who, because of their progression in the Cup, in theory, could end up needing 5 games to be rearranged. I don't think the Newcastle game, postponed from match week 25, will be arranged soon. That's because BT have got the rights for it. And if they put it on a midweek that's European games, they're going to put their own Premier League fixture in competition with their European coverage. And consider, even if it's a Thursday at the moment, they'll get good viewing figures, particularly out of Manchester United and Arsenal.
Yeah.
So I don't think the Newcastle game will be over this period against Brighton, unless maybe if Manchester United lose to Barcelona, it could be maybe sort of in 26 or 27, maybe before the March internationals. I'm talking about match weeks there, not necessarily Sky weeks, by the way. But with 5 games to rearrange, there's every reason to think a fixture against Palace or Bournemouth, postponed from earlier in the season, could drop in somewhere. Where it won't drop in is that same midweek that I'd said Liverpool Wolves might. It could be, say, for example, Wednesday the 22nd of March, or it could be, say, of February, or say Wednesday the 8th of March, Wednesday the 15th of March. Could drop in there. I think that's a possibility that we should be aware of. And entry points for Brighton aren't great, unless, for example, you've got something like Joao Cancelo, and you can buy this Saturday. However, with them blanking, how much do you want to go in? Now, there's several Brighton assets that are very, very interesting. Lewis Dunk, McAllister, Casado, if he gets his head straight, obviously. Mitoma now as well. So there's a few Brighton players worth considering. You should also consider, though, there's no guarantee of the extra fixture. And it could be between now and the March internationals that Brighton play 5 fixtures. And there'll be other teams that will play 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So got to factor that in, but also be aware that obviously any extra fixture for Brighton's highly likely to be a single game day. And in which case, against Palace or Bournemouth, you're going to want it. It's unlikely to be against Newcastle. Manchester United Brentford won't be until April unless United lose to Barcelona, in which case it could be one of those final 2 midweeks before the March internationals. But should they lose to Barcelona, there's no need to rush it in any case. So I don't think those 2 fixtures postponed from the weekend of the Carabao Cup final are likely to be played this side of April, is my take at the moment. But there's still a few things that can manoeuvre, centering around, I think, mainly Liverpool and Brighton.
Okay.
If Brighton West Ham moves to a Sunday, that's not going to bother you so much. And in fact, so we're talking about Sunday, 5th of March. If, say, Brighton then played on the Wednesday against Palace or Bournemouth, for example, and you go, great, entry point, you get the extra fixture on the Sunday, an extra one. So not a major problem. And it might enable another entry point for Tottenham should the Wolves fixture move, but I don't think it will. I guess one that's important for people at the moment is what to do with these guys that you own, whether it's from Brighton, whether it's from Newcastle, Manchester United, and there'll be a few people who've got the likes of Ivan Toney, for example. I think in the case of Brentford, that's a sell. It's a sell from either after this Saturday, when Brentford play Southampton, or it's a sell on the Saturday 2 weeks later when Brentford play Crystal Palace. Now, the only thing with moving that second one is you've got a little less choice of where you go to. One of the choices would be Manchester United, but then they're not going to play the following weekend either, so that doesn't make much sense. You probably would be booking yourself to go into Tottenham. So look at that. If you've got Brentford assets, explore perhaps what you might like to have a look at from a Tottenham perspective. And you might say, well, I've got Kane, I don't want anything else. That's fine. Obviously, you can keep the player and run through. But I think generally, a Brentford player would be a sell. in my opinion. But that's because their next game after Palace on Saturday, 18th of February, is not till Fulham on Monday the 6th. You've got teams in the middle of there that are going to play 3 times, one of which is Tottenham. He's a standout one. So even if you were dipping from, I don't know, a Tony to a Kulusevski or a Romero or something like that, it might be worth considering. Particularly if for whatever reason you decide you don't want that Brentford player back, and you might not. Remember, Brentford and Fulham could both blank on the FA Cup quarter final weekend. But I would say if you dived in on that Monday the 6th, particularly in Brentford's case, you can get captaincy, Fulham at home, Everton away, 3-0, and then you just chain it on to someone who's playing on Sunday the 12th, for example, Arsenal away to Fulham. You might then get 3 Arsenal fixtures before Brentford play again. Similar might be true for Newcastle. On Manchester United, it's not as clear in terms of selling because the exit point is not good. And that's because they play on Sunday, the 19th of February at home to Leicester, which it's probably competition between Rashford and Harry Kane for the captaincy on that day. So if you've got like a Rashford, there's every chance you want to hold it. Otherwise, the case is if you want to come off, it's probably the week before. So after United play Leeds the second time on Sunday the 12th. And then the obvious one there is to look at Liverpool. So that's the example.
Arsenal?
Why not Arsenal? You could
because
go Arsenal Wednesday the 15th, and perhaps that'll be easier from a financial.
If you come off Rashford for that Leeds game, I can get 4 for 1 with an Odegaard or whoever over Rashford, who's just got that Leicester at home game. I'm not captaining Rashford Leicester at home. I'm captaining Harry Kane West Ham at home. Yeah. So I don't need him. So if I can pick up 4 Arsenal fixtures, including Villa, Bournemouth.
Consider this. If the United fixture against Southampton moved to that Sunday on Sunday the 12th, if the Liverpool Wolves game gets added as well, you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Liverpool fixtures, and all you'd miss of United is Leicester at home and Liverpool away. In fact, 6 fixtures, 6v2, and there's going to be a couple of captaincies in there as well.
But listen,
so effective 8v2.
I'd take 4 games of Arsenal over 6 games of Liverpool at the current standing any day of the week, mate.
I understand that, but it's not, is it? If you're bringing in a Liverpool player to captain them twice.
Yeah, I'm likely to have the coverage I want from Liverpool based on what I'm looking at the moment. But yeah.
And of course, you could hold someone like me who's not got a huge amount of transfers left, probably knows that I'm going back to Marcus Rashford as long as he stays fit. So it might just be I just have to suck that up and go, okay, I've used too many. I'm going to keep him through. That's going to be me saving 2 transfers versus someone else selling and getting it back. And of course, if there's a player you want to keep longer term, there's always the case. The closer we get to the end, the more the case there is to say, keep. On the Newcastle assets, I think that's a sell as well for the majority. Now, again, in my case with Kieran Trippier, it might be I'm probably going to want him back. I'd just leave it. But in the case of Newcastle, after they play Bournemouth on Saturday the 11th, you've got your choice of a number of teams you can get again from there. The following week, they play Liverpool at home. The following week, they don't have a fixture. The following week after that, they got Man City away. And the following week after that, they don't play Wolves till the Sunday. And so that's similar. That's similar to coming off the Manchester United in terms of that weekend. Just actually, you've got even more choice. Because you could go into, say, Manchester City, an extra fixture against Villa even on top of that as well. So I think those who've got sort of treble Newcastle defence, that is a really big period from Saturday 11th of February to Sunday the 12th of March. It's a month. It's a month where you're not going to be looking at a lot in terms of points. So you've got what, 3 of them, Suj?
Yes.
You've got a lot of transfers.
I'm selling all of them.
Yeah, exactly that.
I'm selling all of them. I think for me, I know what I'm doing with my team. I've got Pope, Trippier and Botman. All 3 of them are gone after Bournemouth, and I'm going to be heavy into Man City. Wolves on a Sunday is a perfect re-entry point for Newcastle. So I can skip Liverpool and Man City, get about 5 or 6 fixtures out of other people and come back to them. Thiago Silva's gone after this week, Friday, and I'm going to get an Arsenal player, which I haven't had for ages in my team. I'm not sure if I'll go to Saliba or Gabriel or Zinchenko, to be honest with you. I was going to go to Saliba as the easy option, but I may go to one of the others. Marcus
I
Rashford's
think if you
gone for
haven't got
me.
Saliba from the value perspective, like I added Zinchenko the other week, but I already had Saliba.
But
I
money's
think
not a problem. That's the only
no,
thing.
I know it's not, but it might be somewhere down the line.
Yeah. Rashford can go after the Leeds away game, the second Leeds fixture, and I'll skip Leicester. I might go to Liverpool there because I mean I've already got 3 City. If I sell my 3 Newcastle for City, how many City can I have? Knowing that they'll only fucking play half the games anyway.
Yeah.
He can go. Kane can go for me after the Leicester game. I might get 2 of Salah's fixtures and go back to him for the West Ham game. And then the only other one is Alexander Mitrovic. Do we know what the status is on him, James? Because
Yeah, he's fine.
I've got 2 Fulham players in Paulinho and Mitrovic, and I like them both because I like the Nottingham Forest at home fixture on the Saturday. I want them as backup and captaincy for the Wolves game and also now the Brentford game. So if I stick with them, I might stick with those guys all the way through now, really. And they're good value. And they're pretty decent. Paulinho's 4 to 5 points every week. Mitrovic with the captaincy could do me quite well, and he's not highly owned.
If you
I'm fairly
consider
comfortable.
if you consider what you said, so the week of say Saturday the 11th, we've spoken there saying that might be the right weekend to sell Rashford, might be the right weekend to sell your Newcastle players. You just said you'd probably sell Kane at that point to dip out and come back the following Sunday on Sunday the 19th, where you could have a few fixtures in between and get a gain. Arguably, maybe just keep Kane might be something you want to think about. But then that's a lot of transfers there. So I know you've got a lot.
I've got a lot. Where am I going to use them?
No,
But here's some big games.
You're still restricted to 5 in 1 week, right?
Yeah, of course. So I need to plan it out, but I've got exit and entry points for most of the players in my squad right now, and I am going to use them. This weekend, ironically, is not the one. It's the weekend after and the weekend after when things start kicking in. That we can get more gains on. But yeah, there's some good opportunities between now and the end of March for people to make some real gains.
Just be aware in many cases choice is important. So I know there'll be people listening saying, well, I'm quite happy to keep my Newcastle 3 players against Liverpool on Saturday the 18th. And of course it's absolutely fine. Why wouldn't you back them for a clean sheet at the moment? Liverpool look devoid of anything great at the moment. But also just consider if you go the week earlier, you've got more choice. If you wait to Sunday the 19th, your choice really is you are stuck with Tottenham. So if in your case with the 3 defensive players, do you want to be on Sunday the 19th going, well, I don't want to buy United because they're blank the following week. I don't want to go into Leicester because they've got United, then Arsenal. That doesn't really make sense. And you might decide you don't want to go into West Ham. But in any case, that's your choice is probably Tottenham, West Ham. So let's say Tottenham are in form at that point. Do you want to go from your 3 Newcastle defensive to Loris, Romero, Dyer? You don't.
No.
So give yourself more choice. You go the week earlier, opens up City, opens up Liverpool, opens up Arsenal. Gives you more choices of what to do.
Agreed. What's your thoughts on captaincy coming up this weekend, James, up until Wednesday the 8th? Chelsea, Fulham. I mean, I've got 3 players in that fixture. Mitrovic, Paulinho, and Thiago Silva. Being that it's a home tie for Chelsea, I'm going to be going Thiago Silva. His ownership is also quite high, so I think that's the safest option for me.
Yeah, definitely a Chelsea player. I think if you've got, I think Thiago Silva will be popular. Be interesting. Probably gets quite a split from captaincy because I think those like me who haven't got any Chelsea are just going to go. I got to let that go. And I'll just captain Paulinho, right? I think I would captain a Chelsea defender over Mitrovic in this particular fixture. I think if you're like me and you've got Paulinho, that'll do you.
Yeah,
he'll get booked, but he'll hit tackle tier, and you walk away with your 8 points, and that'll do. That'll do. Okay, it's not going to be Thiago Silva's possible 20 or so, but I think that will do rather than making the transfer. But yeah, Chelsea player would be favoured. I'm really, really interested in Mudryk. Not to buy this Friday, just I really, really want to keep an eye on him. He's 9 million in Sky. And let's say he's got potential.
So Saturday, obviously Arsenal are away at Everton. Liverpool away at Wolves. On your fixture planner that you plan, you haven't put Man United in, but they're at home to Crystal Palace as potential captaincy.
Yeah, oversight.
Okay, fair play.
Rashford at home to Palace is perfectly reasonable.
I think I'd like to go Saliba away at Everton. I don't see Everton scoring, but new manager bounce, maybe home game, crowd getting behind the team, and also ownership on Rashford is obviously through the roof. I'm probably going to just play the ownership game on this one and just go with Rashford at home to Crystal Palace. He's in too good form. I think that's where I'm going to end up, maybe.
There's a lot of options on Saturday,
which
is really nice. I think in terms of trying to predict who might be the most, I mean, it's quite split. You've got obviously Arsenal at Everton. So people have got Odegaard, Saka are going to potentially like that. I think the defensive guys massively appeal. You've even got, looking down the fixtures, someone who's got Tony at home to Southampton, who's reasonable. Someone who's got Mitoma home to Bournemouth, or Lewis Dunk, is reasonable. You've got Rashford, as you've said. Perhaps people on Bruno Fernandes have gone in for the gain of fixtures elsewhere. Might be an alternative. Even a defensive, a Martinez, for example, if people are on. You've got Newcastle defensive at home to West Ham.
Yeah.
And you've got Liverpool at Wolves.
Mm.
And it's interesting that I think most people will have will captain Mo. Just still because of the potential of what it could be. And there's every chance that if I had him, I'd maybe do that. I think I'm going to go Saliba, I think, from the choices. Okay. Gomeres obviously got sent off for Newcastle last night, banned for the next 3 league games, will be available for the Carabao Cup Final, but not before then, unless that Brighton fixture was to get rearranged, which we don't expect. So it's probably going to be Saliba or Trips for me. I'll probably go Saliba. The only thing I'm conscious of is the new manager at Everton, which gives a little bit of unpredictability in terms of what the opposition may do. And you can say, I know what Sean Dyche teams do. They play 4-4-2. What I don't know is if they're going to go, I don't know what they're going to do off the ball, though, in terms of how they decide to treat the game. So I'll give that some thought. I think it'd probably be Saliba for me, I think. It's close. It's wide open Saturday, which is nice.
Man City on Sunday, Tottenham, just got to go with Haaland, really. Even if he has a shit game, he might score 4 goals. So,
yeah, I won't overlook that. It will be Haaland for me. Defensive guys will pick up the numbers in terms of passing and stuff. I'm pretty confident of that. But you ain't going to see the team, so good luck with that. It's Haaland, and this great run we've had of seeing Manchester City teams kind of begins to come to an end, actually. Currently up for the fixtures we can see, we only get 2 more where we can see the team, and those are Arsenal and Newcastle. So how great is that? So yeah, it'd be Haaland for me Sunday.
And next Wednesday, I mean, we'll record before next Wednesday, but that will be
Rashford.
Rashford. Simple as that.
You given any thought to getting a Leeds player?
Nope.
Obviously, you can go in on Sunday. You got Sunday and Wednesday.
Yeah,
but it's
I'll only do it if I
captaincy,
need to move early. I'm just look. It's 2 games against Manchester United in there, so it's not really ideal. I'm not sure where I would go from and to. I mean, I could come off Paulinho to get to Tyler Adams if I wanted to, and I'll definitely get a fixture gain on it. But I just don't think it's worth the transfer, James. There's no upside. I'm never going to captain him, and they may score a few more points, but it's not going to be what I'd justify a transfer for, James.
No, I hear you, and that's very, very fair. I mean, I'm just looking, if you were to come off, let's say, Thiago, as an example, you get 5 games of Leeds, Forest, United twice, Everton and Southampton. Them last 2 are quite nice, but as they're both Saturdays, very unlikely you'd want them for a captaincy. You could go back to Chelsea Sunday the 26th. And if over that period you only missed 2 Chelsea games, you got 5 Leeds. But I don't think there's a captaincy in there. Again, if you were to come off a Fulham player, maybe go a little bit longer, you're probably 6 versus 3 fixtures, and you go back to Fulham for the Monday night at Brentford, or not go back at all. But there are gains there. I just think it's become a little bit murky for the forward players. Perhaps if someone's got a goalkeeper issue, I hate their goalkeeper, perhaps something like Meslier might be a consideration, but I think you'd move it on again. So Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Other than if you want Tyler Adams as your enabler, and I think that's probably not the best one anymore. Even if you already got Paulinho, I'd probably more be looking at the explosiveness of say Mitoma, for example, at the moment. So I think it's probably an avoid.
Yeah, indeed. Cool. Should we answer some of the questions we've had in on Twitter, James?
Let's do that, mate.
We've had a few, and thank you so much for sending them in. If you want to know how you do it, you head over to Twitter, you follow James at Planet FPL Pod. You wait until on a Tuesday he sends a tweet out asking for questions, and you whack it in the replies. FPL heavyweight and SkyFF Cancelo replacements. I mean, budget-wise, you can go anywhere. It's a hard question to answer because we don't know formation. Because I mean, you might not need to replace him with a defender per se.
It'd be Arsenal for me anyway.
Yeah, but it's tricky. Yeah, Arsenal is definitely a good place.
You've now got an excuse. You know, if you don't want to get rid of whatever you've got from Friday night, you've now got an excuse to add an Arsenal player, and they do obviously have extras. The beauty of the Arsenal fixtures over this period, the 8 fixtures they've got scheduled over this period, none of them can move. Yep. You know what you've got.
Next question is coming in from Mark Healy. Is there a better month to target for manager of the month? As his main team's not doing particularly well. Is there one where there's going to be a lot more rearranged games, James?
I think April's going to be the biggest in terms of the amount of fixtures in the month. And you'll probably find, Ian Parron will quote me on this if I'm wrong, but I think May will have more fixtures. In fact, I'm fairly sure May will have more fixtures than February and March as well. But depending on what you know, if you set up a third team, or there's nothing to say you can't ever go at 2 or 3 of these months, to be honest. And it should be considered that perhaps most people won't go for this one. So a lot would have put, I'm going to go January. Okay, I'm going to take this one off. I think that's what a lot of people may have done. So, I mean, it's how well were you set, right?
Yep.
How well can you set it up?
Stephen Barnes wants to know what your thoughts are on moving Kane onto a Man City defender on the 12th and then back to Kane on the 19th. That's a two transfers.
Say that again.
2 transfers for a 3 for 0.
Selling Kane for who?
A City defender.
When?
After you play on the 12th. Yeah.
Yeah, we've spoken about the
2 transfers for 3 games. Worth it?
Well, if City keep 2 clean sheets over that period, probably yes.
The problem is we don't know the team sheets, right, for all of those fixtures. So I would be very wary just because of the unreliability of the City. They might play 2 out of those 3 games, and then you're reliant on clean sheets in all of them. It's if you're flush with transfers, go for it. If you're tight, it feels maybe a little.
If you had to go for a City defender now, would you go for? Bearing in mind, John Stones has got an injury now as well. That's obvious now.
And then Akanji. Yeah. I'd go Aki and Akanji as my first 2. And then Diaz or Laporte.
Yeah, I think Aki, with this Cancelo sale. Would you consider Rico Lewis?
Nah, not yet. Not yet.
Also, his passing numbers aren't showing up even though he's going into this inverted position next to Rodri. He's getting nowhere near Rodri's numbers of passing. I mean, not even close. He's often not even half of Rodri. So you're still more likely to get it from the guys at the back. I think the 2 that will probably really benefit from this, ironically, are the 2 we've probably always wanted, Aki and Akanji, who we've never been kind of comfortable enough to, are they going to play? Are they going to play? Are they going to play? If Guardiola keeps persisting with this, with Lewis moving inside from right back, I'm looking at it and I'm going, who would he be comfortable to play as the right-sided centre-back while John Stone's out? And in a weird way, I think that's arguably only Akanji. I'm not sure he'd be comfortable playing Ruben Diaz out there. And the issue with Ruben Diaz is, I don't think he's as punchy with his passes as the other guys. So I don't think he'd get favoured in the central position as well, where arguably he'd be more comfortable playing Laporte there at the moment. Left-sided, it's Aki or Laporte, isn't it, in that system? So you could make a conclusion that Akanji, for a little bit, is arguably a little bit more secure than Aki, but that's also dependent on how long John Stones is out, and it's also dependent on what Pep might do with his system. Which,
what he has for breakfast.
Let's be honest, City have got some games coming up against Tottenham and Arsenal, for example, where he really might try something radical. You know what he's like. You can bet your life. You can bet your life that the night they play at Arsenal, he'll try something.
No doubt.
He can't help himself.
Shadebi says, who would you choose for just Saturday, Dunk or Tony? He's trying to win Manager of the Month. That's why.
Is that for captaincy, I take it?
No idea.
Or are we buying in?
No idea. Peeps, give us more information in these questions.
Manager of the Month. I'd Dunk out of the two, because you don't worry about the. Well, actually, no, the Brighton blank does still fall in there, doesn't it? But so does obviously Brentford's. I guess, well, no, you'd move it on Sunday the 19th, wouldn't you? Over those 3 games, I'd go Dunk over Tony, I think.
It says just for Saturday, so we need to get a bit more info. Maybe ask us again if you...
Just for the one game? If it's just for the one game, I'd probably go Tony.
Okay.
Because of the upside pens and stuff. Whereas Dunk will almost definitely hit passing, but they do give the opposition a chance.
Michael Haaland is moving Havertz to Rashford for captaincy on both Saturday and Wednesday, leaving him with around 3.5 million in the bank. He owns Tony. He's got Brentford versus Fulham single game day coverage. He's thinking of coming off Paulinho because budget isn't an issue. I know Fergie and Paul were talking about this. Even if budget isn't an issue, Paulinho, I think they said he's the 11th or 12th highest scoring midfielder in the game this season. So would you still have him at 8 million?
He's nearly
still have him at 8.5?
Nearly double the tackles in the Premier League of the
Tom
third
Ford,
highest.
For example, says he owns Mitrovic and Paulinho. Would you consider selling Mitrovic to an Arsenal asset and just captain Paulinho for those 2 single game days?
We're obviously not going to sell prior to Fulham Chelsea, but
no.
I would
after. He's talking about after.
I would strongly consider moving Mitrovic on to an Arsenal, for example.
And just captain Paulinho.
If your choice Friday night is Paulinho or Mitrovic, I think you captain Mitrovic, don't you?
No. But I'm saying if you own both and you sell Mitrovic, then for the single game days you just captain Paulinho.
The later ones,
no backup.
Yeah.
You've got no backup there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's. I mean, I know the previous one, Paulinho or Tony. I'd sell Tony.
Yeah, James Hill. If Fulham versus Wolves, is Fulham versus Wolves looking like a skip if you don't own? I'm happy with my team and no entry point into Fulham.
Yeah, probably, but consider that it might cover your captaincy off twice. It would maybe be an unusual one. But let's just say you did buy Mitrovic then. Okay, no fixture gain. But over the course of the 2 weekends, if you captain him twice, you've actually got a four for 2. If it's over someone you wouldn't have captained that you're selling. So maybe not. Maybe not. It depends. I think if you get that point, you want a Fulham player or not. It's worth saying after Fulham play Brentford, they've got Arsenal on the Sunday. And obviously the Liverpool fixture's 50-50 if it goes ahead. But if you've got a player on that weekend, considering we're going to lose fixtures, you're going to keep it, I think. So coming off the Fulham player is not going to be easy. And it's Arsenal-Liverpool after Brentford. So ironically, I'd almost rather that you came back for Brentford on Monday the 6th rather than Fulham. Because like I said, even if it's just short, you can go Fulham, Everton with a captaincy, 3-0, and then move it straight on Sunday the 12th. To like a Newcastle player at a similar value price. And that's the entry point back into Newcastle. Absolutely clear as day, Sunday 12th. Because they'll play 2 days in a row effective. Because they play Wolves Sunday the 12th and Nottingham Forest Friday 17th.
Okay. Last question of the show, James, goes to Grumpy Mother FPL. This is a very difficult one to answer, so we might have to...
Sorry, can we just have a moment for the handle there?
Yeah, Grumpy Mother FPL.
Brilliant.
I quite like it. Are there any deadline day signings you'd consider bringing into your team? Well, like you mentioned at the start of the show, mate, there's no prices on some of these. So
yeah, I was going to cover it, but a lot of them haven't got prices yet. So
yeah, particularly difficult.
Keep an eye on FF stuff because there'll be a link on there when there's new price. But a lot of the new players, not even just ones on deadline day, but before, haven't got prices yet and stuff. So I think the obvious ones to keep an eye on are Enzo Fernandez.
Mm.
He's won, and it's now confirmed this morning that he is a Chelsea player. So he's got a little bit of everything in him, which we know from the World Cup. That's worth keeping an eye on. I think Chelsea assets just generally, by the way, are worth keeping. And that's not to say you shouldn't sell, by the way. If you've got a plan to sell after Friday night, I think that's still absolutely fine. But I'd want to keep an eye on some of these new guys. I think it's probably them. Marcel Sabitzer, if he plays regularly for United, I wonder if he might be underpriced. And we don't know how often he's going to play. What I can tell you is he's got a hammer of a shot on him. He doesn't hesitate. Honestly, anything within 30 yards, if he thinks he can hit the target, he'll shoot. So might be another one maybe to keep an eye on. I think, look, in case of Pedro Porro, he's probably likely to come in more expensive than the other Tottenham defenders, I think. He is the highest in the Portuguese league this year for assists, despite being a right wing back. If he's got tackle tiers to go with it, you might find there's another kind of Trippier case there, possibly. But I still think you need to see something first.
Cool. And that's a wrap for Sky. Back at you again next week with more Sky Fantasy Football. We'll have had quite a few games then and see if we can make any gains. James, what have we got left for this week? You've got COTC tomorrow?
No, mate.
That was
the biggest podcast of the year. If you want more
chips.
Manchester United and Leeds yesterday with Gary Robinson and Andy Martin, that's already out for you. You can have a listen to that. We go straight in for those who are FPL managers. We literally go straight into the FPL chat. The first question is Marcus Rashford triple captain, yes or no? So if you want to have a listen to that, that was released yesterday. Tomorrow's the full chip strategy podcast again, Serge. We'll go into all the details. Some of what I've said will be repeated, but it's obviously going to be FPL focus in terms of chip strategy stuff. I'll be streaming Friday morning as well. If anyone's got any follow-up questions or questions for the weekend, Sky or FPL, more than welcome. That's going to be early, possibly 9 a.m. even Friday, because we've got Friday night football, and it's first of the month, Serge.
Which means it's a perfect time to sign up to Patreon to support the show, patreon.com/Planet FPL. Regular Sky listeners, you'll know that you get access to James's Sky Excel planner, which helps you map out your 3-for-1s, 2-for-1s, 4-for-2s, whatever you might be able to find and plan out your strategy in your team, as well as additional podcasts every single day, prize leagues, Slack channel to chat to other engaged managers, and a whole bunch more. So if you'd like to support the show and you like what you listen to, we'd love to have you as part of our Patreon community.
Before we finish, I must give Mr. Ian Parron a shout out. Because last night, and to be honest, I haven't got the full data, which is part why I'm not covered it here, but we'll probably come back to it. Me and Ian were having a big discussion about TV arrangements. Some of you might remember the pod I did with Ian, which some people thought was a little bit too much detail, where we spoke a lot about how TV selections are made. And we had a look at some interesting stuff last night, and Ian he is unreal with how savvy he is with some of his predictions and stuff. Leeds United, for example, are the only team currently, and I've managed to work this bit out, who haven't been selected yet by BT Sport. And interestingly, they play Arsenal on the first weekend in April, and City and Liverpool also play that weekend. So there's every chance Arsenal Leeds will be the 12:30 on the Saturday in April, which also means you're going to get 3-for-0s with Arsenal, and that's without captaincy, over some teams over that kind of FA Cup quarter-final weekend. Not that you need any extra reason to look at Arsenal players, but it's worth considering. But we were having arguments about, basically, giving a quick example. So technically, on the Sunday 4:30 slot, you shouldn't be chosen more than 5 times. Tottenham have already been scheduled for 7. We were having a discussion. I'm not going to bore people about it now. We was having a discussion about whether this is right or wrong, and have they done certain things to manipulate things, because the police have said, oh, you can't have this game at 4:30, switch that around. Tottenham had a game with Newcastle that changed. But there's potentially some blockages on the Sunday 4:30s. Now, that doesn't mean a huge amount from Sky, because it can still be chosen as a 2 o'clock game, right? But it's something to bear in mind. We might have some more high-profile Saturday 5:30s later in the season. And I think that's partly as well. They're going to have the April fixtures are due to be announced on February the 21st. So they've got to announce them before they know who's through in the Champions League. And therefore, I think you'll get some high-profile sort of City-Liverpool games, particularly City, might be 5:30s on Saturdays. Something to bear in mind.
Fair play. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show this week. Back at you tomorrow. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Cue music, please, man. Sharp.
I mean, today's episode, listeners, is all about
Chip Talk.
This podcast will bang.